The best drill to improve your front rack is the front rack itself.
Today, we're talking to the brilliant physical therapist and BSN sponsored athlete, Dr. Teddy Willsey. He has over 500,000 followers on Instagram, well over 500,000 followers on Instagram, and it's not hard to see why. The man specializes in looking at orthopedic musculoskeletal conditions, and one of the reasons why he stands out in the field is he has a real emphasis on exercise and movement as a means to recovery and injury resilience. So basically, if fitness and longevity are two things you're interested in, he's a man you're going to want to listen to. And today I'm talking to him about 5 very pressing questions that a lot of athletes have and a lot of athletes ask him about wedding these two concepts, fitness and longevity, about being able to get stronger without making yourself more prone to injury. Today's video, by the way, is brought to you by our friends at BSN, a sports nutrition and supplement company, very well known for their protein powder Syntha 6, which I said in a review long before they ever sponsored one of our videos, is one of the best tasting protein powders on the market. You can check out that review right there. They also make like pre-workouts, NO Explode, a very famous one, also creatine, protein bars, whole lot of other really tasty products. So the first question we're asking Teddy today is inspired by the many years I spent doing a certain functional fitness sport that includes lots of overhead presses, push presses, jerks, snatches, kipping pull-ups, all these sorts of really heavy shoulder work. So basically the question is, if I'm doing a lot of shoulder work, what are some of the best ways to prevent an injury?
The best way to prevent a shoulder injury in the gym is to optimize your range of motion and to improve your strength and stability of the shoulder. To optimize our range of motion, we're gonna wanna do in-range liftoffs, foam roller wall slides where you put a roller on the wall and really stretch your arms overhead. Something like a down dog in yoga is also a great movement for this. So there are a lot of different ways that you can start to reach overhead and improve your overhead mobility. That's extremely important, especially if you're lifting overhead. Now, in terms of strength and stability of your rotator cuff and your shoulder and the surrounding muscles, your parascapular muscles, those are the muscles that attach to your scapula, your shoulder blade, and help it to move and rotate up. Remember, we have 17 muscles that attach to our scapula, so we really have to strengthen and stabilize that whole area. In order to do that, we want to focus first and foremost on single arm exercises. So you should always have some dumbbell benching, some dumbbell rows in your programming. A dumbbell or kettlebell overhead movement is also a great option. And then it never hurts to do direct cuff work. One of the most popular exercises for direct cuff work is just the regular old external rotation, right? Another one that's really popular is a face pull. So there are a lot of different ways that we can improve the strength and stability of our cuff and our overhead motion without it turning into a 30-minute prehab session before every training session.
Teddy is absolutely right that the shoulder is a fiendishly complicated part of human anatomy. There are just so many muscles and tendons and ligaments and stabilizers surrounding the shoulder and surrounding what surrounds the shoulder that preventing injury can become a real headache for a lot of people. But those are some really good tips he put forward there. Another good series of exercises that are really handy for a stable rotator cuff and potentially minimizing injury to the shoulder include T-spine extensions, kettlebell windmills, overhead band stretches, and kettlebell bottoms up presses. Those can all be strung together in a 4-move circuit before a shoulder workout. We made a whole video about just how to do that right there that you can check out. The second question we wanted to ask Teddy is all about your booty. A lot of people don't know that the gluteus maximus is actually the largest muscle in the body, and the fact that we sit all day, combined with the fact that many of us fail to properly activate the glutes and focus on them before and during workouts, means that a lot of the time the glutes aren't really doing their job of taking stress off of the lower spine and the hamstrings and the quads, and that can lead to torn muscles. So in short, our question is, number 2, how do I really make sure that my glutes are working so I can avoid tearing my quad during squats?
To prevent quadriceps tearing, we want to make sure that we are training our quads through their full range of motion regularly enough so that the muscle is long and supple. If you're somebody who is just doing like mini range of motion squats above parallel and leg extensions where your hips are flexed, and you're never really doing rear foot elevated split squats or the couch stretch where you put your leg behind you, then your quads haven't seen full range of motion and they don't know what it looks like. So when you start to expose them to that, when you drop deep into that squat, you might be in trouble. Now, the other interesting thing here is that we've seen through research that the glutes are recruited the best in the squat when you go deep, when you go below parallel. You need to squat deep regularly to expose your muscles to this range of motion so that they're not like, whoa, what is that? I'm gonna tear because I'm not used to it, right? Because muscle tearing happens because of some sort of contractile unit insufficiency.
So to recap, make sure you get some full deep stretching of the quads in your routine. Couch stretches are really not fun, but they are a fantastic option for this purpose. And also make sure you squat relatively deep as well. Working your muscles through their full range of motion is a really important part of minimizing injury risk. Exercises you might want to consider adding to your warm-up to ensure that your glutes are active include bird dogs, monster walks, and glute bridges. You can check out an article in the description below. We've put together an article with 12 exercises and 12 handy gifts to help you warm up and activate your glutes before you start squatting. The third question we want to ask Teddy is all about the biceps. If you've been spending a lot of time outside of the gym this year, and there's a pretty good chance you have, then there's a pretty good chance you've been increasing your chin-up frequency as well. And there are plenty of reasons why, right? Chin-ups are one of the best exercises for increasing the strength and size of your biceps and your back if you don't have any weights or barbells or dumbbells lying around, right? All you really need is like a bar, a playground, a tree branch, or if you live in New York City like me, some scaffolding is always just around the corner. So the question is, if I'm increasing my chin-up frequency, how do I avoid tearing my bicep?
We need to be organized. We need to plan things out. We can't just be like, oh, I want to do the 100 chin-up a day challenge because I'm in quarantine, right? If you were training for a marathon, you wouldn't be like, oh, let me go run a half marathon today. I haven't run in a year. So the same thing goes for strength training. If you're doing 3 sets of 10 once a week for chin-ups, don't start doing 100 chin-ups a day. Even if you can do it for a day or two, something might happen. So be smart, use your head, because we can't prevent all injury. That is the best way to mitigate or reduce the likelihood that we get injured.
A lot of people forget that you can still get injured doing bodyweight training. It might seem like a more natural and foolproof way to work out, but you do still have to take into account your training history and your current level of strength, proficiency in these movements, and so on if you want to avoid getting injured. Don't just go straight up to 100 chin-ups a day and expect everything to go swimmingly. The fourth question we have is about the butt again. Well, actually it's about the pelvis, right? So sometimes the pelvis, it can tilt forward, making your butt stick out. Other times it tilts the other way and that can give your back a more of a kind of a rounded appearance. That's posterior pelvic tilt. It is very, very common among athletes, and it's something you really want to get a handle on if you want to make sure you're injury resilient and just if you want to be able to squat more weight. So question number 4, how do I fix posterior pelvic tilt?
What you're gonna wanna do is exercises that work the anterior tilt muscles. So you're gonna wanna do glute exercises, hamstring exercises, and posterior chain because you're walking around looking like you don't have a butt because your butt's tucked in. So how do we improve the backside of your body? How do we improve your posterior chain? By training it. And the other way we can do this is through postural restoration types of exercises. So we can work on core training, core strengthening, stability through the core, and that will help everything to be in line and be functioning optimally.
There are a lot of causes of posterior pelvic tilt, so there are plenty of ways to go about fixing it, which is why you should always, see a medical professional yourself if you have issues like these. For me, when I had a wonky pelvis, the missing link was definitely core training. Because you know how core exercises usually come at the end of your workout, and by the time you're at the end of your workout, you're kind of tired and you're starting to think, I'm sure I trained my core enough doing those deadlifts earlier. I'm sure I don't have to do targeted core work. And then you skip the exercises. Yeah, you have to do targeted core work, at least if it's in your program. So for me, I was able to help this by putting my core work, like my bird dogs and power presses, at the beginning of my workout or on rest days. Otherwise, I just wouldn't do them. So, know thyself, I guess is the lesson here. Know what you have to do to make sure you do the exercises that you have to do. Our last question for Teddy comes directly from me, but I know it's an issue that affects a lot of lifters out there, and that's quad dominance. So I'm very quad dominant. What that means is I'm a lot better at activating the muscles on the front of my legs than the back of my legs and my posterior chain. So in other words, I'm a lot better at front squats, which are more quad heavy and quad dominant, than back squats. And same for sumo deadlifts. I'm a lot better at sumo deadlifts than conventional deadlifts. Like, I know I have to do conventional deadlifts and back squats, but they just always feel a bit weird for me. They don't really click the same way as front squats and sumo deadlifts do. but I know I have to do these exercises if I want to build a strong posterior chain and improve my injury resilience. So that's the question. How do I get better at more posterior focused exercises if I'm quad dominant?
Now, if I want to get better at shooting free throws, the best way to do it is to shoot a free throw. And I think sometimes people forget about this in strength training. They forget that the best way to get better at a lift is to do it. They're always looking for drills or other ways to improve that. You know, one time I blew somebody's mind. I was like, the best drill to improve your front rack is the front rack itself. Right? And so this is the same thing with improving these posterior focused lifts. Put a box behind you. Spread the floor with your feet. Push your knees out as you're sitting back. Get your air, get tight. Right? This is old school powerlifter stuff. Learn how to use your posterior chain by sitting back into that box and bracing your trunk. It'll be weird at first. It'll take practice. It'll take a lot of practice. If you've done thousands of reps of front squats and sumo deadlifts, you're gonna have to do thousands of reps of the other stuff to get just as good at them. But this is how you start. This is how you practice the form and get better at it.
A real game changer for me was that screwing your feet into the floor tip. It's a really, really handy way and a really underrated and undervalued tip, helping you to activate these muscles in your feet, in the arch of your foot, and also all the other muscles going up your legs, up your hips, up your quads. It really helps to sort of like switch on more of these muscles that need to be working during these exercises. But also for these exercises I'm bad at, like the conventional deadlifts and the back squats, yeah, Teddy's right, you have to just do more of them. But form is absolutely key, especially for exercises you're just not very good at, or like your body doesn't really come naturally to you. Like for me with these less quad focused exercises. So for this, that means less weight and more reps. So like put more volume and put less weight on the bar, slow the exercises down, add some pauses. And for me, that's how I managed to get a lot better at these more posterior focused exercises like the back squat and the conventional deadlift. Slow things down and form above all else. That's it. That's everything from us. Thank you to Teddy Willsey for coming on the channel today. We've linked his channel in the description below. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you check him out on Instagram as well. And make sure you subscribe here as well at BarBend, because we've got a whole lot more fitness and nutrition videos coming up.